The Grand Hall of the Intergalactic Military Academy buzzed with excitement as thousands of cadets from different species settled into their seats. The annual War History Lecture was about to begin, but this year was different. Instead of the usual boring professors, they had Captain Red, the legendary veteran of the Great Spiral War. Red stood tall on the stage, his crimson scales gleaming under the lights. His three good eyes scanned the crowd while his fourth, damaged one remained permanently closed, a reminder of the war that had changed everything. The battle scars across his thick hide told stories of survival that had earned him the right to speak here today. "You all know me as a war hero," Red began, his translator converting his deep rumbles into standard galactic speech. "But today, I'm here to tell you about the species that taught me the true meaning of fear." He paused, letting his words sink in. "I'm here to tell you about humans." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some of the younger cadets had never even seen a human. The older ones knew them only as allies, but few understood their true nature. 20 cycles ago, when humans first joined the galactic community, we thought they were a joke. Red continued, pacing slowly across the stage. Their bodies seemed fragile. They needed constant rest. They couldn't survive in vacuum without artificial protection. They couldn't even digest half the foods that other species considered basic nutrition. A few chuckles echoed through the hall. Red's upper lip curled in what his species considered a grim smile. "I remember my first battle alongside them. It was during the darkest days of the Great Spiral War. The swarm was pushing through the Orion Arm, consuming everything in their path. We thought we knew war. We thought we understood combat." He shook his head slowly. "We knew nothing." The room fell silent as Red activated the holographic display behind him. It showed an old battle recording, a human ship, tiny compared to the massive swarm vessels surrounding it. "This recording comes from my personal archive. I was there when this happened. Watch closely, young ones. Watch and learn why humans changed everything we thought we knew about warfare." The recording played, showing the human ship taking heavy damage. Most cadets expected it to retreat or surrender. Instead, it accelerated directly toward the largest swarm ship. Their ship was crippled. Their shields were failing. By all logical analysis, they should have abandoned their position. Red's voice grew quieter, making the cadets lean forward in their seats. "But humans don't follow logical analysis." The recording showed the human ship ramming straight through the swarm vessel's defense screen, a maneuver that should have been impossible. The resulting explosion took out 3 swarm ships. Their captain had discovered a flaw in the swarm's shield frequency. Instead of retreating to safety with this valuable information, they chose to use it immediately, even though it meant certain death for their crew. Red turned off the display, facing his audience directly. "That day, I learned something that would save my life many times in the coming years. Humans are different. They don't think like us. They don't fight like us. And most importantly, they don't fear like us." He touched his damaged eye, a gesture that had become habit over the years. "This story is just the beginning. What I witnessed in the years that followed would redefine everything we thought we knew about combat, survival, and the sheer determination of a species that refuses to accept defeat." The cadets sat in stunned silence. Red could see the question in their eyes. The same question he had asked himself years ago. How could such a seemingly weak species become one of the most feared forces in the galaxy? "Before I continue," Red said, his voice growing serious, "I want you to understand something. The humans I'm about to tell you about aren't special forces or elite warriors. They were ordinary humans, regular soldiers and civilians who showed us that their entire species is capable of things we thought impossible." He paused, letting his words sink in. "This is the story of how I learned to fear and respect humanity. And by the time I'm finished, you'll understand why every military academy in the galaxy now includes mandatory studies of human warfare." Red paused his lecture, taking a moment to drink from his hydration pack. The cadets remained silent, waiting eagerly for him to continue. The holographic display flickered to life again, showing a different sector of space. My first direct encounter with humans came during a routine patrol, Red continued. I commanded the exploration vessel, Dawn Seeker, searching for swarm scout ships near the outer rim. That's when we detected an unknown ship, smaller than anything we'd seen before. The hologram showed a compact vessel, its design unlike anything in the Academy's database. It was the human ship Star Wanderer, though Red didn't know that at the time. We approached with caution, weapons ready. The ship appeared damaged, drifting in space. Our scans showed minimal power readings and strange life signs we couldn't identify. Following protocol, I ordered my boarding team to investigate. Red's mandibles clicked in amusement at the memory. We wore our best combat suits, expecting anything from swarm infiltrators to space pirates. Instead, we found 5 humans huddled in their control room, trying to fix their engine with tools that looked like toys to us. The hologram switched to footage from his boarding team's cameras. The humans looked small and soft compared to Red's heavily armored soldiers. They wore no protective gear except thin fabric suits. Their ship had been damaged by a micrometeor storm. Their main power was dead. Life support was running on backup systems. By our standards, they were in a crisis. But do you know what we found them doing? Red asked, his good eyes gleaming. They were laughing. Confused murmurs spread through the audience. Red nodded, understanding their reaction. Yes, laughing. Their leader, a human called Jack, was telling something they called jokes while they worked. We thought they'd lost their minds from oxygen deprivation. But no, this was normal human behavior. They use humor to maintain morale in desperate situations. The hologram showed the humans working with their simple tools, passing around a container of what Red later learned was coffee. We offered to evacuate them to our ship. They refused. Their engineer, Tom, insisted he could fix the engine. We thought this was impossible. Their technology seemed primitive, their tools inadequate. But we stayed to observe. Red walked to the edge of the stage, his voice dropping lower. What happened next changed my understanding of humans forever. They didn't just fix their engine, they improved it. Using spare parts from their food synthesizer, scrap metal, and something they called duct tape, they built a bypass system that made their engine 30% more efficient than its original design. The cadets watched in amazement as the recording showed the humans celebrating their success with more laughter and something they called high fives. But that wasn't what truly shocked us, Red continued. While they were working, we detected a swarm scout ship entering the system. We prepared for combat, ready to defend the helpless humans. But before we could act, Jack suggested a plan so crazy, so reckless, that I thought they were joking. The hologram showed the small human ship powering up its jerry-rigged engine. They used their damaged ship as bait, luring the swarm scout into an asteroid field. The improvised engine gave them maneuverability that the swarm ship couldn't match. They led it straight into a trap, using the asteroids to crush it. Red shook his head in disbelief, even after all these years. 5 humans in a broken ship, armed with nothing but creativity and what they called crazy ideas, destroyed a swarm scout ship that could have overwhelmed my entire crew. He faced the cadets directly. That day, I learned 3 crucial things about humans. First, they are never as helpless as they appear. Second, their primitive technology is deceptively effective. And third, most importantly, they are at their most dangerous when you think they're beaten. Red's damaged eye twitched. This encounter was just the beginning. I had no idea then that these same humans would later save not just my life, but the lives of my entire species. Red's claws tapped rhythmically on the podium as he switched to the next holographic display. The image showed a massive battlefield near a shattered moon system, debris floating among the warships. After our first encounter, humans were officially invited to join the alliance against the swarm. Many of us thought they would serve as support units, given their physical limitations. We were wrong. So very wrong. The hologram zoomed in on a section of the battle. Human ships, though smaller than most others, moved with incredible precision through the chaos. The Battle of Broken Moons marked the first major engagement where human forces fought alongside us in significant numbers. The swarm had cornered our fleet near the ruins of the Sentinel Moons. We were outnumbered 3-1. Red gestured to the tactical display, showing the initial battle positions. Standard doctrine said we should retreat. The human commander, a soldier named Stone, disagreed. He said, "The best way out is always through." We thought this was a translation error. It wasn't. The recording showed human ships taking positions that seemed suicidal, deliberately drawing enemy fire. What happened next defied everything we knew about combat physiology. Our medical teams watched in horror as human soldiers continued fighting despite injuries that would have incapacitated any other species. They called it running on adrenaline, a biological response that let them ignore pain and fatigue. The hologram shifted to footage from inside a damaged human vessel. An injured crew member worked frantically to repair critical systems, blood floating in zero gravity around them. This human had 3 broken ribs and a punctured lung. By all medical knowledge, they should have been unconscious. Instead, they sealed the whole breach, restored life support, and got their weapons back online. When our medics finally reached them, they refused treatment until their ship was fully operational. Murmurs of disbelief rippled through the audience. Red nodded gravely. I didn't believe it either until I saw more examples. A human soldier continuing to fight after losing an arm. Engineers working in radiation zones long past safe exposure limits. Pilots flying with concussions that would have killed most species. Their bodies simply refused to quit. The display showed the battle's turning point. A coordinated attack that broke the swarm's formation. The humans had noticed something we missed. The swarm ships were protecting a specific point in their formation. Stone recognized it as a queen carrier, crucial to their hive mind coordination. The humans proposed what they called a Hail Mary attack. Red's damaged eye twitched at the memory. They overloaded their shield generators to create a massive electromagnetic pulse. It was a suicide tactic, or so we thought. The human ships went dark, power systems fried, but their crews had prepared for this. They'd trained to fight with manual controls, no computer assistance. The hologram showed human ships, running dark and silent, slipping through the chaos of battle. While our fleet engaged the swarm's main force, these powerless human ships drifted through their defense screen. The swarm ignored them, registering them as debris. When they reached the queen carrier, they powered up emergency systems and launched everything they had. The recording displayed the spectacular destruction of the swarm command ship and the subsequent confusion among their forces. The humans call it playing dead, a hunting technique from their evolutionary past. They turned their own ships into floating coffins, gambling everything on one decisive strike. The swarm, with their rigid tactical programming, never saw it coming. Red looked out at the stunned faces of the cadets. We won that day, but the victory taught us something terrifying about humans. Their bodies don't just heal from injuries, they adapt to them. They grow stronger from damage that doesn't kill them. And most importantly, they can turn their own weaknesses into weapons. His voice grew solemn. After the Battle of Broken Moons, the swarm changed their tactical protocols for the first time in recorded history. They began treating damaged or powerless ships as priority targets. There's no greater testament to humanity's impact than forcing an enemy to rewrite their core programming out of fear. Red flexed his armored plates, memories of exhaustion evident in his posture. The hologram shifted to show a massive supply route stretching across several star systems. The Long Night, as humans named it, was a 3-month defense of the Arcturus supply line. The swarm had adapted their tactics, focusing on cutting off our resources rather than direct combat. We had to protect a chain of supply stations spanning 40 light-years. The display highlighted a series of space stations and waypoints along the route. Our forces were stretched thin. Each station needed constant protection, but we didn't have enough ships to guard them all. That's when I learned about another unique human trait: their extraordinary endurance. Red brought up footage from one of the supply stations. Human crews worked tirelessly at their posts, their shifts lasting far longer than other species could manage. Most spacefaring races need regular rest cycles. Even my species can only stay alert for about 20 hours before requiring sleep. Humans, they found ways to keep going for days. They called it rotating power naps, sleeping for just 20 minutes every few hours. A hologram showed human crews taking turns sleeping in their chairs, while others consumed what they called energy drinks and coffee. At first, we thought they were using combat stimulants. But no, this was natural human adaptation. They told us stories about something called college finals week and new parents with babies. Apparently, humans had been practicing sleep deprivation for their entire history. Red's mandibles clicked in amazement, even after all these years. But the real revelation came when the swarm launched simultaneous attacks on multiple stations. We didn't have enough ships to respond to all of them. The humans suggested something they called persistence hunting. The tactical display showed small groups of human ships pursuing swarm vessels across vast distances. Instead of engaging in direct combat, they would chase single swarm ships for days, even weeks. They would take turns sleeping while maintaining constant pursuit. The swarm ships would eventually run low on power, unable to find safe spots to recharge. The humans would just keep following, waiting, watching. Red zoomed in on one particular pursuit. This human crew chased a swarm dreadnought for 18 days straight. They never attacked, never tried to outgun it. They just followed, staying just close enough to prevent it from dropping out of faster-than-light travel. The swarm ship eventually ran out of power and drifted to a stop. The cadets watched in fascination as the recording showed the final moments of the chase. The humans called it running their prey into the ground. Apparently, on their homeworld, they once hunted much larger animals by simply following them until the creatures collapsed from exhaustion. They applied the same principle to space warfare. Red paused, letting the implications sink in. Think about that. A species that evolved chasing prey until it died of exhaustion. No wonder they excelled at long-term military operations. The hologram shifted to show the final statistics of the long night campaign. By the end of those 3 months, we had lost 30% of our ships and crews to combat fatigue. The humans, they were tired, yes, but they kept going. They had developed complex rotation schedules, letting entire crews stay operational for months without rest. Red's damaged eye twitched as he recalled the final days. I remember asking the human officer how they maintained morale during such extended operations. She laughed and said, "This is nothing. Try working retail during holiday season." He looked out at the cadets, his voice serious. The long night changed our understanding of human capabilities. We had thought their need for sleep was a weakness. Instead, they had evolved to adapt to sleep deprivation in ways no other species could match. They could outlast any enemy simply by remaining awake and alert longer than anyone thought possible. Red touched his ceremonial armor, where a human military insignia had been added. After the long night, the Alliance adopted human endurance training techniques. Even now, every military academy teaches what humans call sleep management, because sometimes victory doesn't go to the strongest or the most advanced. It goes to those who can stay in the fight the longest. Red's posture stiffened as he activated the next hologram. The image showed a devastating scene: the fall of Fort Hope, one of the Alliance's strongest defensive positions. Despite our successes, the swarm was evolving faster than we could adapt. They launched a massive offensive that broke through our main defense line. For the first time in the war, my species faced complete extinction. We had no choice but to abandon our colonies and retreat. The display showed thousands of civilian ships fleeing while military vessels fought desperate rearguard actions. During the evacuation, I witnessed human warfare in its most primal form. When our main fleets were forced to withdraw, small groups of human ships stayed behind. They called it guerrilla warfare, a concept that would change the course of the war. The hologram focused on scattered human vessels hiding in asteroid fields and nebulas. Instead of engaging in traditional space combat, these human ships used tactics from their ancient warriors. They struck from hiding, attacked supply lines, and disappeared before the swarm could respond. They called themselves space wolves, after some predator from their world. Red brought up footage of a human strike team in action. Their ships, painted in dark colors, moved silently through debris fields. They'd modified their vessels for stealth, sacrificing shields for better hiding capabilities. They studied swarm patrol patterns and communication frequencies. But most disturbing was something they called psychological warfare. The recording showed human ships using modified communication arrays to broadcast strange signals. The humans discovered that the swarm's hive mind could be disrupted by certain patterns of radiation and signals. They began broadcasting what they called horror movie soundtracks and death metal music on swarm frequencies. The effect was devastating. Confused murmurs spread through the audience as they watched swarm ships breaking formation, their coordinated movements becoming chaotic. You see, the swarm operated on pure logic. They couldn't comprehend the concept of psychological terror. But humans understood fear intimately. They knew how to use it as a weapon. Red's voice grew quieter. They started leaving messages on derelict swarm ships, not in any language, just mathematical sequences that ended in impossible equations. They planted fake distress beacons that broadcast nothing but human laughter. They turned fear itself into a weapon. The hologram showed the results. Entire swarm fleets refusing to enter certain sectors of space. One human commander programmed their ship's transponder to transmit the signal, "We are the ghosts of those you killed. We cannot die. We cannot be stopped. We are coming." The swarm, unable to process this illogical threat, began avoiding entire star systems. Red paused, his damaged eye twitching rapidly. Then came what humans called the mind game. They started attacking in patterns that made no tactical sense. Sometimes they would destroy valuable targets, other times they would ignore them completely. The swarm couldn't predict their actions because there was no logic to predict. The tactical display showed dozens of small human ships darting through swarm formations, causing chaos and confusion. By the time our main fleets regrouped and returned, the swarm had committed massive resources to hunting these human raiders. Their perfect formations were scattered. Their supply lines were in chaos. Their hive mind was showing signs of what humans called paranoia. Red's mandibles clicked in dark amusement. When we asked the human commanders about their strategy, they referenced something called the art of war by someone named Sun Tzu. Supreme excellence consists of breaking the enemy's resistance without fighting. He looked out at the stunned cadets. That was the true breaking point of the war. Not when we developed better weapons or stronger shields, but when humans taught us that victory doesn't always require superior strength. Sometimes, all you need is to make your enemy afraid of shadows. Red touched his battle scars thoughtfully. The swarm had never known fear before they met humans. By the time the humans were done, the swarm feared everything. Every shadow, every silence, every unexplained signal in the void. And that fear did what no weapon could. It made them vulnerable. Red paused to adjust the hologram settings, showing a critical moment in the war. His forces were cornered in the Rigel system, surrounded by swarm ships with no apparent escape. What I'm about to tell you changed not just the war, but our understanding of what humans truly are. My fleet was trapped. Our fuel reserves nearly depleted. The swarm had cut off all escape routes. We prepared for our final stand. The display showed Red's ships forming a defensive circle, preparing for inevitable defeat. That's when our sensors detected new warp signatures. At first, we thought it was more swarm reinforcements. Instead, we saw something unprecedented. The largest human fleet ever assembled, led by vessels from every major Earth nation. The hologram revealed hundreds of human ships dropping out of warp space, their weapons already charging. You see, we had never witnessed humans fighting at full strength before. What we didn't know was that while we fought alongside small human battle groups, they were gathering their full military might. Every human nation, despite their planet's political differences, had united. Red's voice carried a mix of awe and fear as he continued. But it wasn't just human ships. With them came vessels from dozens of species we'd written off as too weak or primitive for warfare. The humans had spent months traveling to these civilizations, training them, sharing technology, and most importantly, giving them hope. The tactical display showed ships of various designs and capabilities, all moving in perfect coordination with human vessels. They called it Operation Pack Hunt. The humans had taken everything they learned about different species' strengths and combined them into a single fighting force. Species we thought too small became stealth scouts. Those we considered too slow became living fortresses. Every weakness was turned into a strength. Red zoomed in on specific battle footage. Watch how they fight. The humans didn't just lead. They adapted their tactics to maximize each species' natural abilities. They fought like a single organism, despite being dozens of different species. The recording showed the incredible battle unfolding. Small, agile ships darted between larger vessels, providing coverage. Heavily armored ships formed living shields for lighter craft. Every movement was coordinated, precise. When we asked how they managed to unite so many different species, the human admiral said something I'll never forget. Everyone deserves a pack to run with. They explained that humans naturally form strong bonds with other species, something they called adoption instincts. Red's damaged eye twitched as he recalled the moment. The humans had done more than build an army. They'd created a family. Every species in their fleet had a story about how humans had helped them, protected them, or simply believed in them when no one else would. The hologram showed the battle's conclusion. The swarm forces broken and retreating, unable to counter this unprecedented alliance. The swarm's greatest advantage had always been their unity through their hive mind, but they faced something stronger. Unity through choice, through trust, through what humans called friendship. Their hive mind couldn't comprehend or counter it. Red touched an emblem on his armor, a gift from his human allies. After the battle, I learned that humans have a long history of bonding with other species. On their world, they've formed deep emotional connections with creatures they call pets. This ability to form genuine attachments with completely different species turned out to be one of their greatest military assets. He looked out at the cadets, his voice serious. Remember this, the humans didn't just save us that day. They showed us a new way to fight, not as separate species with temporary alliances, but as a true community. They taught us that real strength comes not from superior weapons or numbers, but from the bonds we forge with others. The hologram showed one final image, the combined fleet in formation after their victory, ships of all shapes and sizes flying together. This was the moment when the swarm truly began to lose the war, not because they faced superior firepower, but because they faced something their hive mind could never replicate. The power of willing cooperation between diverse species, united by human determination. Red's posture straightened as he prepared to deliver his final thoughts. The hologram faded, leaving only the soft glow of the Academy's lights illuminating his battle-scarred form. And so we return to the present, young ones. You might wonder why I share these stories today. Why dwell on battles fought and won years ago? The answer is simple, because the galaxy is still adjusting to the reality of human nature. He stepped forward, closer to the edge of the stage, his voice carrying to every corner of the hall. Before the war, we classified species by their obvious strengths: natural armor, advanced technology, physical power. We categorized humans as a minor species, unremarkable in every measurable way. We were catastrophically wrong. The final hologram activated, showing Earth, the human homeworld. Their planet tells their story, a world of extreme conditions where their ancestors survived everything from ice ages to massive predators. They evolved not by becoming the strongest or fastest, but by becoming the most adaptable species their world had ever seen. Red gestured to the various climate zones of Earth. They can survive in nearly any environment. They can eat almost anything. They can learn to use any tool. But their most remarkable trait isn't physical at all. It's their ability to change the rules of any game they play. He touched his damaged eye, a habit that had become symbolic of his experiences. The swarm was defeated not because humans were stronger, but because they refused to fight the way we thought they should. They turned their weaknesses into strengths. They made allies of the overlooked. They taught fear to creatures that had never known it. The hologram shifted through images of human achievements since the war. New technologies, flourishing colonies, peaceful cultural exchanges. Today, humans are spreading across the galaxy, not as conquerors, but as teachers, traders, and friends. They're sharing their knowledge, their creativity, and most importantly, their perspective. They're teaching us that being different isn't a weakness, it's an advantage. Red's voice grew more intense. But never forget what lies beneath their friendly exterior. I've seen them turn medical ships into weapons platforms. I've watched them weaponize mathematics. I've seen them defeat warships with mining equipment. There is nothing, absolutely nothing, the humans won't turn into an advantage if they need to survive. He looked at each section of the audience slowly. Some of you will serve alongside humans in your careers. Some of you will trade with them, learn from them, maybe even become friends with them. But remember my words. Never mistake their kindness for weakness. Never assume you understand their limits. And most importantly, never make them feel their loved ones are threatened. Red activated one final recording. Footage of human ships defending a civilian evacuation. Humans have a saying. The most dangerous place in the universe is between a human and someone they've decided to protect. They don't just fight for victory, they fight for each other. That makes them capable of things that defy all military logic. He straightened to his full height, his voice carrying the weight of hard-won wisdom. The galaxy is changing. The old ways of measuring strength and weakness are obsolete. Humans have taught us that true power isn't about natural advantages. It's about how you use whatever you have. Red's damaged eye twitched one final time as he concluded. So remember this, young ones. If you ever find yourself in combat, pray that humans are on your side. If they're not, pray they're willing to accept your surrender. Because if humans decide you're a threat to their friends, their families, or their allies, they won't just defeat you. They'll rewrite the laws of physics to do it. The hall fell silent as Red's words sank in. After a moment, one brave cadet raised a hand. Sir, do you fear humans? Red's mandibles clicked in what his species considered a smile. Fear them? No. Respect them? Absolutely. Because the most terrifying thing about humans isn't their strength, their technology, or even their creativity. It's that they're still evolving, still learning, still finding new ways to overcome any challenge they face. He looked out at the future defenders of the galaxy. And that, young ones, is why this lecture series now exists. Because the only thing more dangerous than facing humans in combat is underestimating them.